Appreciate you being here. Obviously, it's a big time. Getting ready as we head into spring practice. And a lot of things to be accomplished. And, first and foremost, I want to say, I've been really, really happy with the enthusiasm in which our guys have kind of attacked what we're asking them to do. And we got some hungry Gators out there, some guys that, have really bought in to a lot of things we're trying to accomplish, and yet we've got a long ways to go. Obviously, our numbers from a roster management standpoint are nowhere near where we need to be, especially, thin at linebacker, very, very thin at offensive line, to the point that we all knew this was coming, so it's not a shock. But we're going to have to adjust how we practice, the amount of reps that we get, and the different ways in which we do things. From a practice structure where normally we like to go 2, 3, and 4 spot drills, where guys are constantly working, no one's standing. There's going to be some skelly type work that needs to go on that normally would be in a team situation. So, but we'll handle that. That's cards we are dealt. So that'll be all right. The key is making sure we get as much work as we can with as many people as we can to kind of establish who we are, what we're all about, and the direction we're going to head with this football team as we move in from spring ball then into the summer session. So excited about the direction that we're headed. A lot of work ahead, and you know what? It's kind of fun work. We get a chance to get out. I'll just say personally, I can't wait to get outside and enjoy seeing these guys compete and find out kind of positionally where some guys are going to be. We haven't made any position changes or anything like that, moving forward. Probably the biggest one in there is to kind of figure out exactly where Brandon Powell's going to kind of fit from a wide receiver, running back, where he kind of played both a little bit. We're going to primarily put him at wide out and give us an opportunity there. That obviously makes us thin at running back, but at the same time, you kind of do a guy a disservice when you try to kind of do a little of both. And so we're going to try to take a look at that at first, and then we'll go from there. But other than that, injury-wise, obviously, Morrison will be out. Things are going well with him. He's really attacking his rehab and been with us. I got to tell you what now, here's a team guy now. He doesn't miss a meeting. He's out there at every practice doing what he can do, and that's really good to see. Trip Thurman, the offensive lineman, we probably, he's not going to do anything in practice. He's still with the team. That shoulder is such that if we can get an 8-month cycle off of it, then maybe we're able to piece some things together with him next fall. The way I look at guys not being able to go in spring is it now gives another guy an opportunity to get a lot of valuable reps. And so that's really, really what we try to accomplish with it. So I'm sure I'm missing some guys. We'll hit that, when we get out there on next Monday, for sure. I didn't necessarily have a real long meeting with the trainer today. That's kind of the least of my worries right now. But we'll tackle that come next Monday. As you guys know, change of venue for us because of the exciting things that are happening from a facility standpoint. They're making great progress on the indoor. We're going to expand that field as well. So we've got more space moving forward, moving out towards the throw pit with the outdoor fields, which is needed. We'll tear up that one turf and grass both of those, and then have the field turf on the indoor. So all our practices will be out at the lacrosse and soccer complex. We'll come in the stadium to do some scrimmage work and that kind of thing. But other than that, that'll be the home for our practice stuff. And that's going to hinder a little bit what we do in camp this summer, to be honest with you, because right now we'll just have, the swamp here and then the track field over there as far as we're, use for what we need to do. So, that's going to be a little bit different. And yet, improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's really what it's all about. You don't worry about, the hand you're dealt. You're worried about how you got to go attack it moving forward. So we're excited about a lot of those things that are moving forward in the program. So with that, what kind of questions we have?
Robbie.
Coach, how much tape have you guys been watching, and kind of what's your overall evaluation early of the talent you've inherited?
Well, we've done obviously a lot of tape work, not only on our own guys, but looking at next year's schedule. So as you move towards the end of spring ball, some of the unique things that you need to at least expose them to a little bit as your schedule kind of moves forward. It's been a lot of that. It's hard to match schemes. It's more seeing what people do individually and seeing the things that they were successful at, and yet without being out there with them and practicing, there really are no preconceived notions going into what we've got going on this spring. So there's been a lot of film watched, believe me.
Edgar, in the middle.
Yeah, Coach. What would be the benefit to having a starting quarterback in place by the end of spring?
Oh, I think, you going into the summer, you got an opportunity maybe to, develop some things from there, but we're not putting a timeline on a starting quarterback. We've done it, a lot of different ways, a lot of places we've been and been successful doing it. So when it's time, we'll name that. And yet I'm looking forward to seeing what those guys can do and seeing the competition as we move forward. They'll get opportunity with all groups as just the way we practice. So the thing I know from playing the position and having coached it a long time, sometimes guys become kind of crutch heavy if they're just practicing with the same group of guys. You never know who's going to be in the game. You got to develop trust with everybody, all the receivers, all the running backs, all the tight ends. So those guys will take a lot of reps with a lot of different groups moving forward, and should be a lot of fun.
Jake McGee, what's his status?
Okay, yeah. Jake will not, he'll be in a lot of drills. He'll not be in any live action based on that, foot. That you want me to give you the anatomical problem on the injury. He's got a bad foot, and that's about what I know about it. But so that'll give a lot of those tight ends, which, we've got a good group of tight ends. I'm talking about from a number standpoint that are going to allow us to kind of move the direction we want to offensively with those guys handling a lot of load. But he's been running with our team, but we certainly don't want to jeopardize that, and it's too short out from what occurred there. But he'll be involved in a lot of the skelly drills, a lot of the half-line pod work, that type of stuff. He just won't be in any scrimmage or any live drills.
Mark, over the right.
Coach, with the number on the offensive line, how do you plan to address that during practice and then certainly with the spring game?
Cry. This has been a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure out how we're going to practice from a standpoint of trying to make sure we don't lose some other groups, because of the one group, and yet putting so much work on them, sometimes, you get caught up in that. So adjusting how actually having rep counts, pitch counts on certain guys as we kind of move forward. It'll be an evolution because it's something that we need to get, moving forward. We need to get our roster balance. I mean, it's the same way at linebacker now too. So just from a depth standpoint, got good players, and I'm not saying anything about players. I'm just talking about structurally how you practice to get the most out of it. And so it'll be a little different based on those numbers, because even if you get one dinged or a couple dinged here and there, then that's really going to change how we've got to do things. And yet, you know what? Out of all the positions, you know, those old linemen are going to get some valuable reps now. And there is no replacing true reps. And so when you see kind of how we practice, guys aren't standing around. Philosophically, I always get a kick out of take a mental rep. So if I'm shooting free throws, okay, what am I going to go stand at the line and stare at the basket? No, I'm going to shoot, right? So I can't stand that part of it. So something that we've kind of done is everybody's moving, everybody's working, everybody's getting on film because now you can teach it off of film. So, you know, the value of repetitions and yet making sure they're quality reps and you're not, you know, getting, you know, nothing out of it because they can't go. That's really where we're going to kind of be as far as the structure of it.
Landon.
What's the update on Jared Davis and Brian Cox?
You know, they're injured.
I mean, what's their availability this spring? How much are they going to participate?
Well, that's something, you know, trainers and day-to-day, you'll get the injury report. You know, guys, I really, they're hurt. So there's a pretty good chance they won't practice much. But we got to get them healthy, so.
Jesse in the middle.
As a follow-up to Mark's question, in terms of specifics, though, do you guys think that you'll be able to hold a traditional spring game with only 7 or 8 offensive
You know,
linemen?
I don't see how you can when you don't have 2 units. Here's what I'm kind of toying with, all right, is, and I think this would be pretty awesome myself, is we're going to retrofit the O-Dome and have an Arena League game, okay? Don't you think that'd be cool? We'll play it off the nets. That's music. It should be fun, energy. I think that's a great idea. So that might be the direction we're headed. But we'll probably look at having more a traditional offense and defensive scoring system, you know, and then obviously within that, some pure, you know, red area competition, overtime competition, coming out competition, you know, that kind of thing between the units. But I really don't have that answer now until we see where we are 15 practices from now.
And as a follow-up to having Thurman out now, since that, who are the guys that y'all specifically are looking to kind of fill in those spots? He was the guy that most presumed was going to be either the starting center or one of the guards.
Sure. Well, let's see.
Nobody's big enough.
There's nobody here that wants to.
Andy Staples is gone.
Is that right? Well, I mean, you told me I was going to have a chance to get some old linemen out of this. So,
They don't feed us.
well, there's the reason. Okay, make sure we get them fed next time, will you? You know, they all got to play, right? And so we're excited to see how they all develop. And you're not. Look, I'm one of these guys. It's about the team. It's about the Gators. Okay, the individual, you know, who that is, I don't know yet. That's why we practice. And, you know, I think as time moves forward, I'll be able to tell you a little more that so-and-so is really making some improvement or, hey, we need to get a little more out of this guy or whatever.
Well, I wasn't even talking, obviously you guys haven't even been on the field
Yeah.
yet. I was just speaking in terms of, have y'all identified that we think, based on the tape we've watched from last year, X player would be better for inside versus Y would be better to play tackle?
Well, there hadn't been a lot of them even on film. Now, we've had to dig up some practice film just to see kind of how they go. But, you know, it's a little bit more of an NFL philosophy. In other words, you know, you've got 8 active guys, for example. Some of those guys have to fit. They got to be able to play a tackle, you know, whether it's a left tackle, and they've got to be able to also fill in at right guard or whatever that is. But I think developing that unity as we move forward is really kind of the key to what we need to get out of spring.
Mark over here on the left.
We've talked a lot about infrastructure and modeling this thing after Alabama. Can you give us an update as to where you're at? I've seen that you've hired a number of guys, quality control types.
Sure.
Can you give me an update of where that's at and where you feel like you're headed on that?
You know, we're getting there. We're still a ways away in a couple spots. and yet we've been really fortunate to attract some, I think, outstanding talent and guys that are going to be able to help this program move forward in the roles. You know, obviously they can't coach on the field, and they won't. That's not how it is. And yet some of the value as far as looking forward to some film breakdown, some things like that is huge. And, you know, getting another set of quality eyes on your product that can kind of sit back and see it a little bit from afar and bring some really good value to what you're trying to accomplish. I think we've done that in those spots. And so we're not filled up yet. We kind of pretty close, and yet even a couple of the graduate assistant roles, there's, you know, we need to still get them in school. You know, there's some things that way that need to happen. So, but we're getting to where we, you know, the model that we're after, and it's got to be a model that works for the University of Florida. So we're at the University of Florida. We're going to fit that model to what's best for us.
How do you convince guys, longtime coaches, some of these guys, how do you convince them to transition from a on-field coaching, which is what you guys love to do, to a breaking down film, recruiting type scenario?
Well, you know, part of it is, you know, the people you get to work with, the new set of ways of doing things, and just kind of refreshing yourself as a coach. These are transient positions by nature, which is great because it gives, we're able to give an opportunity to a coach to advance his career. And then at the same time, on the other end, we're able to possibly bring in new ideas to stay fresh. And so that's all part of how this works. And, you know, the other thing is if a coach does move on to a head coaching job or something like that, it allows opportunities for guys, and internally and externally. You know, I mean, you know, I've seen it firsthand, and you know, it really is the way of moving forward. And you know, our administration has been fantastic with, you know, allowing us the opportunity to at least get nearer in the ballpark with the way things are moving, you know, in that direction.
Zach, over the right.
Jim, can you talk about the dynamic of trying to install your offensive system in your first spring while also at the same time trying to figure out what the players do well in building the scheme around that?
Well, you know, system-wise, no matter what you're in, no matter what the system, it comes down to blocking and it comes down to tackling. It comes down to taking a certain step. It comes down to where your eyes are. There's a lot of base fundamentals that have to occur for whatever offense you're in, okay? Whether it's, doesn't matter. They're running kind of the same plays. So for us, it's a matter of the fundamental standpoint and seeing really maybe this guy's strengths, or maybe A. We got to work on B, but let's not force B as an issue. Does that kind of make sense? Maybe be one of those things where, as you look at it offensive line-wise, for example, if we, you know, flip lines, have a strong side and a weak side. You know, there's certain things that you got to find out about the players first before you throw that kind of stuff in. And that's what makes spring ball fun, is an opportunity to experiment, yet an opportunity to kind of really see how guys react and what their strengths and weaknesses are.
And then the tight end position wasn't very productive last year with Jake McGee, you know, not going full contact. How much of an opportunity is it for the other guys that are on the roster?
Well, it won't be for lack of reps, okay? And you know, that's up to us to strengthen that position. And you know, I've got a great coach there that has coached it for a long, long time, and part of that reason is I knew what we needed to do at that spot, and yet we also need to expose them a little bit as to what we expect at the spot. So it'll be interesting moving forward, but we have numbers at that spot. You know, that's one of those spots that's from just a pure numbers is actually pretty good.
Landon in the middle left.
How have you seen your players react to, Mike Kent's workouts, and what philosophies has he really tried to implement there?
Well, I think first and foremost is accountability, and the understanding that we're all Gators, and it isn't a certain position group or a certain side of the ball or anything like that. We're all in this together. We're only as good as each other is, and so what he's been able to do is we do a lot of work where the position groups are mixed, as they're doing things, okay? So you spend enough time, once ball starts, in a meeting room with these guys, right? But it's a chance to get to know all the other people. And so he's done a really good job of that. That's a philosophical thing that we believe in. You see when we do go out to workouts, everybody's walking in a tight group. It isn't guys straggling out at their own benefit, understanding the accountability standpoint to each other, and it's something we got to continually work on is that bond.
Hector again and Jordan.
Yeah, Coach, you're saying,
I can hear you.
yeah,
I don't even think I need this, to be honest with you. But go ahead.
excuse me there.
Yeah.
So you're saying getting in the ballpark. How far behind was you with support staff, and how many people have you added? And do you have some specific guys? I saw John Garrett for one, and that's a pretty impressive guy.
Whether we're behind or not, that's not for me to answer. It's a philosophical, probably discussion more than it is anything. I don't think we were behind by any stretch of the imagination, and yet, it's something that I was kind of a part of. I saw the value of. We did the same thing at the place I just came from, and helped us be successful. And so, bringing that here is just something philosophically that we believe in, and something that our administration is totally behind. And I got to tell you this: it's hard to have success if you got different things pulling in different directions. As long as everybody's, on board with the right message, the what needs to be accomplished, and then figuring out ways to do it. And that's one thing I think that is great about being here, the people we're working with, giving us those opportunities. So,
And some specific guys? I mean, who are some of the people that you brought in?
well, I mean, you mentioned one. I think, Mark DeBastiani, he's a guy I've known a long time. It's, been a coordinator at the 1AA level for quite a while. And a guy that gives us an opportunity, another set of eyes on defense. Obviously, Markwell Blackwell, who brings some instant credibility from the area, and yet, has coached at the collegiate level, has coached at the high school level, and quite honestly needed a break, to get involved and see how the situation is. And I think he's a real strong person in that area as well. Mark Noodleberg, who, was a full-time coach at Cincinnati and learned from some really good special teams guys along the way. Another set of eyes, that can sit in there and help us and help Coach Nord and myself, on the special teams. We still have some spots, all right, that may be designated already, but, for one reason or another haven't quite been filled. The one thing you'll find out about me is I got a lot of patience in this, and part of it is until you see your team and really see what it is, maybe you don't know exactly what part you kind of need to help the organization. And that's part of the discovery of where we're at as a total organization to see what we need to fill there.
What are you looking for in a quarterback, by the way? Specific qualities, and what's kind of your message to these guys?
I think guy that learns how to throw it to our jersey. Our colored jersey is probably the most important thing, and understands the importance of taking care of the football and affecting the people around him in a positive way is really, really what we're looking for.
Jordan over here to the left. And
I know it's probably tough to replace someone with production on defense like Dante Fowler, but how important is it to find one or two people in that front seven to hopefully do what he was able to do the last few years?
Well, I'm a believer in this. You don't replace a Dante Fowler. You know, the guy's going to be a top 10, whatever, top 5 pick in the National Football League. It's a pretty good league, by the way. All right. So you don't replace that guy. What you do is the positions around that guy have to elevate their play to make up for that production. Does that make sense? So that's kind of how I see that. Whenever you lose dynamic playmakers, either side of the ball. And so I never want to ask somebody to be someone they're not. There's only one Dante, right? So you can't go out there and say, hey, go be Dante. Well, shoot, that's never going to happen. So the key is, what are the guys around that spot doing to help you be successful? And that's really what we have to do. We've got to make up for those plays somewhere, right? Well, that means some guys around them need to elevate.
To that point, Coach, you told us in December that you were big on interaction with your players, and you talked about dead fish. Don't give me any dead fish. How are the dead fish, first of all?
You know, actually, I got to say this first of all on that note. You know, walking in here finally, there was a little energy. It was a little bit better. All right, I didn't feel like I was at Winn-Dixie walking down the frozen fish aisle, okay, seeing a bunch of non-reactive bodies in here, right? But, you know, I like being around these guys. They got some energy when we come in here and we're able to, you know, visit. They're actually a lot of fun. And yet the work is really just kind of now getting going. And how they adapt to the change in the practice philosophy, for example, will be interesting. But, you know, that's a constant thing. And I mean, it isn't just your team now. I mean, it's everybody that's involved in the football program. I mean, you know, if some guy's always walking in my office and the son of a gun looks like Eeyore, you know, here, turn around, come back in like Tigger, so at least I got a chance here, right? So
That leads me to the second thing about your players and your interaction. And are you able to tell enough about your players and what you see that you can conceptually at least do what you think you need to do offensively, particularly?
Yeah.
Is that coming together?
yeah, and you know, per NCAA rules, you don't get, you know, you don't get the opportunity to be around these guys like you want to, and yet no one does, right? So coming in new, that's really where we've got to take advantage, you know, of that time here when we can be around them a little bit more. You know, I haven't seen him, I can't even see him pitch and catch, you know. I mean, shoot, at least I can go to baseball and sit in the bullpen and throw a couple myself, you know. But, so I have no idea. It'll be, you want me to tell you what I'm really nervous about? Okay. I have nightmares about the inability to get out of a huddle. Okay? Because some of these guys have never huddled. Okay? Taking a snap from center. It's a novel concept, okay? And, you know, routes on air, I just hope we complete one. So that's what I'm excited about that first day of practice.
You have nightmares. We've seen it.
Well, believe me, I've lived it before too. So that's probably why I have the nightmares.
Coach, you've talked about your, I think, 18-month schedule, so nothing surprises you. What are the challenges of coming into a situation where that's not already in place and building it from scratch?
Well, I don't look at it as much. I look at it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to kind of build on some really good things that are here and tweak some things that maybe need to be tweaked. And I think part of that is not jump to conclusions, you know, and really get an opportunity to kind of see how the workings are and then help and enhance that. And, you know, there's already been some great things I wished I would have thought of before, right, that are already in place with the people in our administration, the people within the organization. And so that's been good. You know, when you get to the end of that 18, that's when you get a chance, and now we've already been able to go through month one, retweak it for when that month one comes up again. Does that make sense? And then we try to do that. And after every event, we have a follow-up meeting to say, how do we make it better? And maybe at times you say, man, that was pretty good. So, but at least you got to make sure you're always digging and making sure that you're current. And I think that's a key, is making sure you're current and you don't fall behind in anything that you do. And so that's what really kind of helps with that, keep it on track.
Time for a final question. Nick, and then Cassie will wrap up.
You guys were kind of behind the eight ball as far as recruiting when you first got on. How much does the extra support staff that you've added, how much will that aid you with this recruiting class?
Well, you know, we're ahead of the curve right now, but we're also a little behind because a whole bunch of people in this league have been already recruiting a long time for 2017s, right? So it's going to take still another full cycle to try to catch up. But believe me, we'll be a lot farther ahead than, you know, that 2-3 week period that we had kind of trying to get it together. And I got to tell you, I was just so proud of how hard everybody in the organization worked those weeks in recruiting to give us the best opportunity to show what it means to be a Gator and the things and the benefits of being a Gator down the road later in life and how important that is. So I am looking forward to at least trying to be a little ahead and not wait until, you know, the last recruiting weekend to have 16 visits or whatever it was and hopefully get one or two. So.
Wrap up with Cassie over here.
Hey, Coach Mack, you've talked a lot about what reps the other tight ends can get in place of McGee being out, but once McGee does come back, just from what you've seen on film and paper, how beneficial is it that you got that extra year with him?
Well, he never really had a chance last year to even play. So I know this. Guys looks like they're supposed to. And that's a step in the right direction. And then he'll be able to do, like I said, he's not going to be able to be in any live drills. But we'll be able to see how he functions in, you know, some of the combo blocking things and that kind of stuff. So I think we should get a pretty good idea on how he's going to fit to help the program next fall.